The story begins with a stunning sunrise in New York City, where Clay Sanford wakes up to find his wife Amanda packing their belongings. Amanda has booked a beachside house in the countryside, and Clay agrees to join her. The Sanfords head for the countryside with their 2 children, Archie, who is 16 and carefree, and Rose, who is 13 and watching Friends. The story highlights the Sanfords' love for a getaway and their commitment to their family. They travel for a while before reaching their leased home, which is incredibly gorgeous. Clay can't quite open a cabinet that contains a variety of elegant drinks. The children, meanwhile, jump right into the swimming pool. After giving the house a quick tour, Amanda goes grocery shopping nearby. A woman spots a bearded man loading water and canned goods in his truck, which seems odd to her. At noon, the family goes to a beach for relaxation. Rose, a curious girl, notices a large ship approaching, possibly an oil tanker. The family takes a nap, but Rose remains fixated on the approaching ship. She alarms her parents, causing panic and chaos on the beach. The ship crashes ashore, and security reports that the ship's GPS is not working. The beach is sealed off, and security claims the ship's GPS was not working. Later, the family returns to their rented home. Amanda tries to learn more about the beach incident on her laptop, but the internet is down. Clay can't watch his favorite game due to a TV signal outage. While they discuss this, they spot wild deer in their backyard, bringing a smile to their faces and making Clay believe it's a good sign. When night arrives, the internet is still offline. Rose is unable to watch Friends' most recent episode. The parents are startled by a noise outside as they are spending some alone time in the kitchen. When Clay gets hold of something, he expects to find an intruder, but instead, he discovers a well-dressed man and his daughter outdoors. The family is shocked when the man identifies himself as the home's owner, G.H. Scott. Amanda is apprehensive as Clay invites them inside to get out of the cold. G.H. apologizes inside for the delayed visit and says that his phone signal is likewise not working. Ruth, his clever daughter, makes an introduction. G.H. says that there was an unexpected blackout that left the city completely dark when he was traveling through it. Ruth continues, they live on the 14th floor, and her father's knee problem prevented him from climbing up without the elevator. They decided to travel to their rural second house as a result. G.H. is desperate to stay with the Sanfords, despite the unsafe conditions outside. Amanda, furious, insists she rented the place and has the right to stay alone. G.H. composed, retrieves a key and opens the liquor drawer, revealing money and a pistol. He gives Clay an envelope containing $1,000 as a refund in exchange for their permission to stay. Amanda shouts, but G.H. remains composed. Clay gladly accepts the offer, but Amanda insists on speaking with him privately first. In their private conversation, Amanda voices her distrust of the strangers, suspecting that they might be scammers planning to rob them. She dismisses all the stories about city blackouts as fabrications. Clay points out that G.H. had the key to the cabinet, but Amanda counters that he could be a housekeeper. Despite her suspicions, Clay reassures her that he'll have a conversation with G.H. before making a final decision. The adults gather for another conversation in the following scene. G.H. states that he bought the house 20 years ago and adds that his wife, an art dealer, is leaving Morocco on a business trip and will be back early the next day. Amanda still has doubts about G.H. and asks to see his ID despite his best efforts to comfort her. Although G.H. accepts, Amanda is suspicious because he realizes he left his wallet at his place of employment. A loud, harsh sound from the TV breaks their talk, and a government announcement declares a national emergency without giving any reason. To Ruth's chagrin, Clay responds by letting the father-daughter pair spend the night in the downstairs suite. The TV abruptly changes to an update as everyone goes to sleep, indicating that the nation is the target of a cyber attack. But the news is swiftly lost in the broadcast, and nobody notices. Rose, Amanda's daughter, wakes Mom up in the morning, begging to watch the Friends finale. But Amanda tells her there are more important things to worry about. Even though Amanda doesn't have internet access, she checks her phone and is surprised to see breaking news notifications. She shows her husband Clay the alerts after becoming alarmed, but they abruptly vanish, as though the hackers are wiping data. In an attempt to locate someone aware of the situation, Clay decides to go outside. Rose, on the other hand, is enthralled by a herd of hundreds, or even thousands, of deer that have congregated outside the home as she sits by the pool. Amanda discusses the blackout and the alerts she received on her phone about a cyber attack. Ruth surmises that the entire system might have been compromised if hackers had targeted the powerhouse.
G.H. decides to visit their neighbors and downplays the significance of Amanda's phone alerts, assuming they might be false.
He assures his daughter that their mother is fine and they will be reunited soon. However, he repeatedly texts her, revealing they have lost contact with her. Rose tries to share her observation about the deer with her brother, Archie, but he is preoccupied with Ruth and ignores her. On the other side, because the GPS isn't working, Clay finds himself driving aimlessly through the region. The car's radio abruptly beeps an alarm as he gets out to look for individuals. It reveals that the ongoing cyber attacks after effects have caused a disastrous environmental catastrophe that has an impact on animal migration patterns. Unfortunately, none of this is known to Clay.
At the same time, G.H. arrives at the neighbor's house, finding it in disarray with no sign of any humans.
Inside the seaside house, he discovers a satellite phone, but even it isn't working. As he cautiously approaches the beach, he stumbles upon a watch buried in the sand. To his horror, a human hand comes with it when he retrieves it, revealing a dead body on the beach. An airplane has crashed, leaving all passengers and crew members dead.
G.H. is shocked by the sight of lifeless bodies strewn around.
As he tries to make sense of the situation, another airplane approaches the beach at an alarming speed, prompting him to flee. Clay encounters a middle-aged woman who doesn't speak English, who warns him about something. He ignores her pleas and speeds away. He sees a drone releasing red objects, causing him to make a U-turn. The red objects surround him. Back home, Archie and Rose venture into the forest, where Archie gets bitten by a tick and Rose spots a deer. Despite the deers fleeing, they continue to explore deeper into the woods, eventually spotting an old cabin.
G.H., drenched in seawater, arrives home in the interim.
Because he doesn't want to tell his daughter Ruth the truth about the plane crashes, he lies and says he fell into the pool. He does this out of concern that Ruth would become alarmed. He tells Amanda what he saw while she's not around, including the broken satellite phone that ought to have functioned when pointing up at the sky. He surmises that satellite communication may have been interfered with by the hackers. Out of nowhere, a high-frequency sound bursts, sending everyone, including the kids outdoors, into agonizing misery. When things settle back down, Archie is feeling lightheaded when the kids get home. Amanda instructs the children to go upstairs and then angrily presses Scott for information about the situation. Scott insists on waiting for Clay's return before divulging anything. Amanda brings up the crashing planes, which alarms Ruth, as her mother's flight was supposed to arrive that morning. Amanda then recalls the bearded man from the department store who was stockpiling supplies, suspecting that he knew about the impending events.
Surprisingly, G.H. recognizes the man as Danny, a self-proclaimed survivalist who's always prepared for situations like these.
The following scene shows Clay, looking apprehensive as he makes his way home. He pulls a red leaflet out of his pocket and reveals that thousands of these leaflets, written in a foreign language, were dropped by a drone. The words translate to "Death to America," which Archie understands thanks to his experience with online shooting games. The Sanfords, realizing how serious the issue is, pack up their things and drive to Amanda's sister's house in New Jersey.
G.H. makes a sincere effort to convince them to stay, but the Sanfords reject his counsel and resume their journey.
Although there are no visible traces of humans on the hauntingly empty roads, Clay is still holding out hope that they will come across someone else until they get to the highway. Amanda and her family encounter a blockade of hundreds of Teslas, all of which are known for their self-driving capabilities. They find no passengers in any of the vehicles, and when another Tesla approaches, it's also on autopilot. Fearing a potential collision, Amanda instructs her family to return to their car and drives away. During their escape, they narrowly dodge a barrage of self-driving Tesla cars, which seem to be moving without any human control. The family eventually returns to G.H.'s home, realizing they have nowhere else to go. Amanda once again contemplates planning another escape, but Clay firmly insists they stay put until it's safe. Ruth has a flavored vape with Clay at night, while G.H. and Amanda have a few drinks together. This is the first time she's been friendly with him.
G.H. tells the tale of a wealthy acquaintance, whom he calls the Evil Cabal, who just asked him to transfer a substantial amount of money, implying that something momentous was about to occur.
Additionally, the friend told Scott to look after himself. Rose seeks Archie and wonders if they can escape their situation. She's eager to watch the last episode of Friends. Ruth and Clay are distracted by a noise and discover flamingo birds in their pool, indicating a serious issue.
While intoxicated, G.H. and Amanda begin dancing together but do not do anything drastic. G.H. expresses his worries to Amanda about his wife going missing, and Amanda tells him to remain optimistic.
All of a sudden, the flamingos are scared away and all of the lights break due to the unbearably loud sound returning. As soon as things get back to normal, the Sanfords decide to share a bed. Although Amanda is aware that Archie has a fever, she still thinks he will be fine. Meanwhile, the enigmatic daughter, Rose, shares a few peculiar stories before cryptically stating, "I think I'm done waiting." The next morning, the family discovers that Rose is missing. Suddenly, Archie wakes up with a fever, vomiting blood, and horrified to find his teeth falling out. It appears he's afflicted by a mysterious illness. Archie suspects it's related to the bug bite, so G.H. volunteers to take the ailing Archie to his friend Danny, the survivalist they encountered earlier. Clay, unable to find his daughter, also decides to accompany them. Amanda and Ruth search for a missing girl, returning to an old cabin they found earlier. Initially angry, they reconcile and realize their need for each other more than ever. A startling sound from outside erupts from their shared concerns. After a long travel, the boys arrive at Danny's house, a place. Taking invaders seriously, the self-described survivalist waves them off with his gun. When Danny learns of Archie's condition, he says that a similar noise that happened in Cuba a few years ago probably caused radiation exposure and tooth loss in those who were affected, which is why Archie got sick. In another hint at the seriousness of the situation, he says that the country is currently at war because the Russians recently brought their people back from Washington. Unfortunately, Danny staunchly refuses to provide them with the medicine, prioritizing his own family's safety. Despite George being an old friend and Clay's willingness to pay $1,000, Danny remains unwavering in his decision. He suggests they seek help from the neighbors, who are rumored to have a bunker. Amanda and Ruth emerge from their cabin, astonished to find hundreds of deer surrounding them. When an alpha deer approaches, they shout, causing the animals to scatter in fear. Overwhelmed with relief, they hug each other for consolation. When G.H. returns to Danny's house, he demands the medication and threatens to leave without it. Danny retaliates by aiming his firearm. Shaken, Clay begs his pal to drop the gun, but G.H. is unwavering. At that point, Clay begs Danny to understand that he's just doing what any parent would do for his son. He emphasizes how much they both want to keep their families safe, and in the end, he gets Danny to accept a trade, medication in return for $1,000. Danny shares information about the chaos, suspecting Koreans are behind it. Clay suggests Iranians, but Danny disagrees. He reveals that drones drop leaflets in East Asian languages, like Korean or Chinese. He believes multiple nations, antagonistic to the U.S., are collaborating to destabilize and destroy the country.
As they return to their car, G.H. explains to Clay that he saw this coming and now understands the situation.
He describes a three-stage maneuver employed to destabilize and collapse a country from within. The first stage involves isolation, disabling communication and transportation, leaving people paralyzed and fearful. This leads to the second stage, synchronized chaos, where misinformation and chaos spread, turning people against each other in a struggle for survival. The final stage is civil war, as citizens plan coups or uprisings, ultimately causing the country to collapse. Clay and George, along with Amanda and Ruth, find New York City in ruins under bombardment. Rose, who has been waiting in the neighbor's house, discovers a secret metal door in the basement, revealing an emergency bunker with years of supplies. A communication system warns of attacks on the White House and major cities, with rising radiation levels. Rose disregards this information and finds the Friends DVD, playing the last episode. The movie abruptly ends, leaving the audience in suspense about what will happen next.